Library of Heaven's Path. Chapter 15. Heaven's Path Divine Art. Needless to say, Haotian Academy, even those top sects might not even have god or saint cultivation technique. Besides, even they have it is hidden deep inside the sect and normal people would be unable to obtain it. What he wants to do is to create such a skill so that his training would be more efficient so as to hasten the rate of the rise of his cultivation by leaps and bounds. I don't have any 4-dan cultivation method. Let me go to the teacher compendium pavilion to take a look. Practicing the Haotian 9-dan formula, the cultivator can only retrieve the secret manual for the next realm after breaking through their current realm. At this moment, he only has the cultivation method for 3-dan. He has yet to see the one for 4-dan. Walking out, the sun hasn't set for too long and there are still quite a few passers-by on the road. The bright moonlight reflects on the surface of the pavement, dyeing it with a layer of silver. A few couples who had just tasted the forbidden fruit are snuggling under the tree as they whisper sweet nothings to one another. Even so, the surroundings have a serene atmosphere. Zhang Xuan didn't bother himself with these. Instead, he hastens his footsteps and soon, a giant pavilion appears before him. The compendium pavilion is split into two main sectors, teacher and student. Within it lies the compendium of all kinds of secret manuals and cultivation techniques. It is one of the most important locations in the entire academy. Elder Mo. Walking to the entrance, he bows to an elderly who is sitting at a proximity from the great door. Elder Mo is one of the guardians of the compendium pavilion. It is unknown what realm he has reached, but it is said that he is ranked among the top in the academy in terms of his strength. However, as he hasn't fought for many years, no one could tell his actual strength for sure. You're here. You have reached Fighter 4-dan. Elder Mo looks over and strokes his sparse beard. It is just luck. Zhang Xuan doesn't try to conceal the fact that he has reached Fighter 4-dan. Good. Train harder. The academy still needs young blood like you. Elder Mo nods his head in satisfaction. Yes. Zhang Xuan doesn't continue speaking and instead, lifts his leg to walk into the room. The moment he leaves, Elder Mo shakes his head and laments, he is a good child, just that he is lacking a little in talent and is slightly too slow in his cultivation. Other cultivators take around 2 years to break through Fighter 3-dan whereas Zhang Xuan took a whole 3 years to do so. His talent is indeed subpar. Upon reaching Fighter 4-dan, if he were to train properly, he should still be able to become an average teacher. Just that, I hope he doesn't score too badly for him teacher qualification examination the next time. After muttering for a bit, Elder Mo doesn't go on any further and shuts his eyes once more. Zhang Xuan is one of the more polite ones among the numerous young teachers. He doesn't really like him, but neither does he dislike him. It is just that he finds it lamentable for him to be lacking in talent. Oblivious to the mutterings of Elder Mo, Zhang Xuan walks into the compendium pavilion. Although the Haotian Academy's compendium pavilion is of significant size, nowhere paling in comparison to the working location of his previous life, it is still much smaller than the Library of Heaven's Path in his mind. The two aren't even on the same level. He walks quickly to the cultivation technique section and to the 4th row of it. Indeed, the Haotian 9-dan formula 4-dan cultivation technique is in here. Reaching out to grab it, he casually flips through it. A similar secret manual appears in his mind. Taking a look, it is around the same as the one for 3-dan, there are more than 1,000 flaws. There are other secret manuals here as well. Let me take a look at them as well. After the prior experience with breaking through, Zhang Xuan doesn't focus on the flaws in it and instead looks towards the bookshelf before him. On the bookshelf of the 4th row, there is an amazing amount of different kinds of cultivation technique manuals. They are all cultivation techniques for 4-dan and there is quite plenty of notes and explanations in them left behind by predecessors. Just by a rough look, there are around a few thousand of them. If it is someone else, their eyes would definitely blur from the sight. After all, there are so many books with countless notes left in them. Furthermore, some of the theories for the cultivation techniques are at ends with each other, so it is hard to gauge whether which one is the right one. If one were to randomly cultivate without knowing better, it is possible for them to go berserk. However, Zhang Xuan is different. Possessing the Library of Heaven's Path, he is capable of telling which one is the right one. He doesn't hesitate to grab a book and flip through it. A similar book appears in his mind. Zhang Xuan doesn't stop and picks up the next one. He isn't browsing through them nor picking them. Rather, he is trying to increase the number of books in the library of Heaven's Path so that he could derive a more precise cultivation method. Hualala. The sound of flipping pages fills the entire room. A weak will. Impatient and unrealistic. Hearing those words, Elder Mo frowns. Since Zhang Xuan has already chosen to cultivate in the Haotian 9-dan formula, then he shouldn't think about any other skills. He should make use of the time to copy the formula for the 4-dan so that he can analyze it and start training. Although it is possible to make use the strengths of others to make up for the flaws of one, the more miscellaneous knowledge one reads, the easier it is for one to get impatient and rash. In the end, it is a small thing if he achieves nothing in the end. If things go wrong, it is very possible for him to go berserk and ruin his cultivation. 30 years ago, a talented genius blessed with great talents who thought he is much greater than others insisted on looking through the various cultivation techniques to create an ultimate one tailored to him. In the end, due to reading too many manuals, he became uncertain of the route he should walk on and his cultivation went berserk. As an individual, he became insane as well. Being greedy would cause indigestion. This is the absolute truth and reality. For him to take 3 years to break through Junshi realm, his talent is apparent. With such talent, he should just obediently cultivate 4-dan of Haotian 9-dan formula. Yet, he chooses to flip through other manuals. Is he just trying to seek for something thrilling? With one look, one could tell he is an unrealistic fellow. The good impression that he holds towards Zhang Xuan disappears without a trace. Putting on a show just to obtain the fleeting praises of the crowd. After a cold harumph, he realizes that Zhang Xuan is just casually flipping through without taking a careful look at them. Elder Mo's eyebrows knit even closer together and he feels a little disgusted with him. If one were to study those manual closer, even though they are being unrealistic, they would still obtain some knowledge on them. However, this fellow simply casually flips through it and given the speed he flips at, even Elder Mo himself is unable to look through the contents properly. If so, what can a lad who had just reached Fighter 4-dan see? Now, he is truly putting on a show to obtain the fleeting praises of the crowd. The Academy's culture is really degenerating, getting worse with each passing generation. After those words, he shuts his eyes, refusing to bother with this unrealistic fellow anymore. I'm done. His pace of browsing is extremely fast. He is able to finish flipping through a normal manual in just 1 or 2 breaths. In 2 hours, he finished browsing through all of the cultivation manuals and thousands of identical books had appeared in the library of Heaven's Path. Time to return to assess them. Knowing that his aim has been achieved, he smiles and walks towards the outside without hesitation. You aren't going to copy any notes? Seeing him leaving empty-handed, Elder Mo couldn't resist asking. Even if he is unrealistic, he should at least copy the secret manual so that he can analyze it after returning to his living quarters. Coming and leaving empty-handed, are you coming here to play? It's okay, I am actually just taking a casual look. Unsure about what the other party is thinking about, Zhang Xuan smiles and takes his leave. Taking a casual look. Frivolous. The academy should punish this fellow. How can such a frivolous person be a teacher? Elder Mo waves his hand in anger. Cultivation manuals are the core of every cultivator and every cultivator should hold some respect towards them. However, this fellow only came to take a look and returns back after casually flipping through them. His behavior is unacceptable. Looks like he should have a talk with the principal to deal with these teachers who are sullying the culture of the academy. Returning back to his living quarters, Zhang Xuan takes out pen and papers and flips through the Haotian 9-dan Formula 4-dan manual to copy down the correct portions of it. Then, he takes out another book and copies down the correct portions as well. After flipping through a few of them, Zhang Xuan rubs his temples. It is actually quite troublesome and tiring to flip through a few thousand books like that. It isn't as simple as he thought it would be. Just when he is thinking about how he could hasten his pace, his mind suddenly jolts again. The thousands of books that was just compiled in the library of Heaven's Path crumple and slowly merge as one. Wang. The few thousand books merge together completely with a crisp sound to form a single book. There isn't any name on the book. Zhang Xuan casually flips through it. This is the compilation of the correct routes in the few thousand secret manuals. After taking a look at it, Zhang Xuan's face flushes red from excitement. Previously, he was still troubled by how he could find the correct route out of a few thousand books. It would have been an arduous task taking a long period of time. Never in his dreams would he expect that the library would compile it automatically. This book, there isn't a single flaw in it. The nameless book is the compilation of all of the correct cultivation route and there isn't a single flaw in it. The contents of it is no longer Haotian 9 Dan formula or any one of the individual manual that was compiled into it. It could be said to be something no one has ever seen before. Since it is the correct method chosen and compiled by the Library of Heaven's Path, let's call it Heaven's Path Divine Art. A thought flashes through his mind and he decides on the name of the nameless manual. Wang. As though sensing his thoughts, the empty cover trembles and 4 words appear on it. Heaven's Path Divine Art. If you find any errors, please let us know in the comments below so we can fix it as soon as possible. Also, like and subscribe to our channel to get notified of the latest chapter release.